Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we're discussing a new, highly anticipated album on the channel. We're talking about the new Black Keys album, Let's Rock. This is the 9th studio album from the Akron, Ohio rock duo of Patrick Carney and Dan Auerbach. This is the first album from the group in 5 years, following up Turn Blue, one that was very downtrodden, very psychedelic, and just sad. Turning around that sadness, though, we get this new album from the Black Keys, Let's Rock. This is an album that is very much an homage to the electric guitar. Also a project that is going back to basics for the songwriting approach. Notably, this time round, there is no Danger Mouse helping out with the production. It is now on Patrick and Dan for the production for the most part. And with that comes the first kind of self-produced album from the Black Keys since 2006's Magic Potion. First up, I want to mention that Let's Rock is definitely an album that feels like the guitar is the focal point. As I was saying, it is an homage to the electric guitar according to the band members. And what makes this album more impressive as a rock release, also a big comeback, is how the guitar stays the focal point no matter which way the album twists and turns with these slower cuts. It really sounds like Dan and Pat are returning to their garage rock days with some simple backbeats on the drums as well as some 70s bluesy guitar too. As for influences on this record, like any other Black Keys release, I would say that Jimi Hendrix is one that comes to mind. We get some southern rock influence from ZZ Top as well, especially on the track Under the Gun. There is even some 70s soft rock influence from the Eagles on tracks like Tell Me Lies and Sit Around and Miss You. Now for the tone of this record, I would say a lot of the runtime is situated around slow to mid-tempo songs. We get some scuzzy 70s rock on here. And now before I jump into some of the tracks on here, I want to kind of explain where the title and artwork of the album came from. Interesting story time, so let's gather around. So there's an electric chair, we can see that on the album cover, the artwork. And for the first time, at least in Nashville's history, I believe there was someone who was executed using the electric chair. Now, when Dan and Pat were recording for this album, they came across this headline and it just stuck with them, and coincidentally enough, Patrick's brother or someone was painting this electric chair, and they thought of this news story. And for the album title, Let's Rock, that's a quotation from the person who was killed using this electric chair, and his last words before having the plug pulled on him were "Let's rock." So yeah, an interesting and vivid way to name your album. Now, with that aside, let's talk about the tracks on this record, and first up I want to talk about Walk Across the Water and Get Yourself Together. These ones feel like Steelers Wheel kind of songs from the 70s. Dan Auerbach is the lead vocalist and guitarist of this group. He is going back to his Waiting on a Song era sound, which was his solo album that he released in 2017. He sounds very similar to himself on there with his vocal delivery and his harmonies, especially on Walk Across the Water. Now, my only real issue with Walk Across the Water, I don't mind that it's a slower style song, I just don't like how it comes up in the track list. The ordering kind of bothers me. I think it would have worked as a more effective closing track for this album, especially with it feeling like it's closing out with some kind of emotional oomph behind it. There's some significant lyrical content as well, but instead we get Firewalk With Me as the closer, which I guess is a more badass title for a song. It just doesn't feel right as the closer, at least in my eyes. They're still good songs either way. Firewalk With Me and Walk Across the Water, both are fine. Moving on to Low High, this is the lead-off single, and every time I hear this track I think of Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky or this T-Rex kind of song. The similarities are there, but it doesn't take away from this track being so amazing. Now, Shine a Little Light, this is the title of the opening cut on this project, and it's got to have some of the most refreshing as hell guitar riffs that I've heard in years. It's an instant favorite. As soon as I turned it on, I just knew that, like, yes, the Black Keys are back. Another song, Tell Me Lies, easily could have been slid onto their album Brothers. One of the catchiest melodies on the project. I love the counter melodies from the strained guitars to the bass groove and the tremolo EBO style guitar. Every Little Thing is another track I adore on here. There's a solid transition between this song and the subsequent track, something that is a little bit new for the Black Keys. I don't think I've really heard them bleed through with transitions on songs before. And as much as this record kind of primes itself on being a return to basics, back to their original kind of songwriting, there's a lot of experimentation with different things on here. I mentioned the transitions, And there's also this electric sitar on the song Breaking Down. It's something new instrumentation-wise for the Black Keys. It feels like I'm being transported back to the 60s, and as much as I know that the sitar here isn't meant to be driving this track forward, they really do kind of just use it minimally. I can at least tell that the Black Keys are trying to step out of their comfort zone and not just get stuck in the same rut 9 albums later. Moving on from there, the track Under the Gun. This one has an Americana, Southern rock, ZZ Top kind of sound to it. The chorus is certainly one of the catchier on the project. We get a high-octane performance on here with a deep cut that I just really enjoy. And now Fire Walk With Me, the closing track, which I briefly talked about, but I'll give a bit more details here. I think that the acoustic guitar that is subtly strummed in the background is very similar to the Beatles song called Polythene Pam. And the guitar solo and just the overall guitar playing has the same kind of appeal that went for the closing track on their last record, Turn Blue. Now, putting together my thoughts on this new Black Keys record, I will first discuss the negatives. The pacing, it is 38 minutes long. It does feel like it is dragged out at points with certain songs like Breaking Down, one of the more generic songs from their discography. I will also say that some songs on here just feel like they're misplaced a little bit, as I was saying about Fire Walk With Me and the 4th track, Walk Across the Water. And for the last nitpick I'll say about this album, I find myself getting distracted with some of the middle portion songs. And what I mean by that is just that some of the bigger chorus treatments that are given to some of these songs feel a bit forced. This let's rock sentiment just feels like it's being spread a bit thin. With that being said, I do want the take-home message to be that I like this album a lot. I think the homage to the electric guitar is something that hasn't been done too frequently, at least in interesting ways. And it is a trip down memory lane for a lot of the fans of 70s radio rock. At least I know I'm a big fan. Other positives I gotta say about this album, it is great for driving. Holy crap, this thing is amazing. I also gotta give a shout out to Lisa Hans and Ashley Wilcoxon. Their backup vocals on here are phenomenal. And lastly, I gotta say that this record has a very strong start. Some of the best songs put back to back to back at the beginning of this record, even with one of the best opening songs of the year too. So I'm feeling a 7 out of 10. Sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of this new Black Keys record. Do you think it lived up to the hype? Leave a like, leave a comment, let me know. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a rockin' day.